What's up, bro? What are we doing here?
Just vibing, bro. I think honestly, the honest reason for this podcast is we messed up with scheduling and we couldn't get a guest this week. So it's just the two of us because we have to hit the weekly target. We can't get out of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what's in store for today.
Yeah, I thought about it earlier today when I was driving, and I was like, we should have probably had a guest on today because we would have felt a lot more accountable at getting this shit done. But
Yeah,
I
it
feel
is what
like
it
that's
is,
one
dude.
thing. Like, if there's anything I've learned from the first 2 months of seriously doing this, it's that finding guests, scheduling with guests, and getting them on is so challenging.
And plus, you have to do the guest research. And then there's the whole part of editing and then getting the clips and doing everything you do on social media. And then all of this has to happen while we're preparing for the next guest. And so, I mean, it is what it is. It's been getting easier over time though, so that's good. Um, but yeah, that's actually a great way to start the pod, bro. How, what are the questions I got for you? Actually, we wrote the document together, so you kind of have an idea. But, what's your experience been like starting the pod and you thought you had this vision of what it would like be, what it would like to start a podcast before we did anything. How is that compared to this? And yeah,
I actually feel we've progressively gotten so much better at every podcast. From our first one until this, our audio quality has gotten better, our questions have gotten better, our flow of the conversation has gotten so much better. In terms of the vision, I
speak
actually
slightly
feel
louder, bro.
like I actually feel like every time we finished a podcast recently, we've looked at each other and said, "Holy shit, that was a good podcast." And that was my vision. Like, my vision was, how can we have the most authentic conversations with people? And I think over the last four, the kind of guests we've had, but also the kind of conversations we've had, is exactly what I had envisioned. And it's been rewarding and just a joy to like be in those conversations. I honestly think that it's rare to have those kind of conversations where you're at a party and it's like one, and that's kind of when the deep conversations start. But you won't get this kind of quality. Like, it is podcast quality conversation, but I think the way that people have opened up over here has been second to none. And like that's all I wanted.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's also because you come in with an expectation, right? Like at a party at 1 a.m., the deep conversations start and they generally do happen, not to this level, sure. But on a podcast, you also come with that expectation that, oh, this is what's going to happen. I'm the guest. I'm expected to talk. Like I remember the one with Vedant. He when he was telling us stories, he gave us all the details, all the background, everything, right? Whereas if I met him at a party and it was my first time meeting him, it wouldn't have been the same thing.
Mm.
And so I think that expectation also helps with the conversation a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that you said about the production quality, all of that. It has gotten up, but I think there is still a lot of gap that we have to fill. I saw videos of Sarthak's podcast. Fuck that guy. His production quality is so nice. It's so
Yeah.
nice. So we
No,
gotta
but I think
definitely up it to that.
it's good to have him also do it. Like, Sarthak's been a
Yeah.
really good friend of ours for so long.
Mhm.
And I actually think that there's two ways that us and him doing this could go. One is it just becomes fiercely competitive. Number two is you get on calls, you learn from each other. Oh, like, this is the software I'm using. This is how I'm improving my production quality. This is how I'm improving my questions, my guest quality. And I think we've been able to do that with him And that's what makes it fun, is that there's things we're learning from him and there's things that he's learning from us. And I don't think that there's anything else you'd want when you're doing something like this that your friend is also doing.
No, 100%.
When
I
you're
don't think
both so
it's
early
yeah.
days.
I don't think it's exclusive in the sense that there's fierce competition and you learn from each other. I don't think those are two separate things. I think there is fierce competition, like fuck you call, we will crush you. But like, I mean, I love the guy. And I mean, if he ever needs anything for a pod, I know we will go out of our way for him, and he will for us too. Like, we're really close friends. And I love, like, generally, he's a great guy. You can learn a lot from him. Honestly,
Right.
a lot of people listening to this podcast, you will probably like his podcast a lot. It's True Calling. I don't know the links, but we'll put it in the description somewhere. But yeah, it's a great podcast, but we will crush him. Like, you know what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. He paid us a
Um,
lot for this promotion, so it's important for you guys to know.
poor guy has no clue. We should do a joint pod with him also, bro. He's a really interesting guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Very interesting guy.
I mean, if there's one thing that we've both learned and reflected on is that we've had interesting guests, but we've been able to have the most interesting conversations possible with those guests, right?
Hmm.
And I think that that's exactly the balance that you want to strike, where
Yeah.
you can get the good guests, but how much quality can you extract from that conversation? And
Yeah.
that's where I think we're exponentially getting better.
Yes, we're definitely getting better. That Sindhu's podcast was one of the, in my opinion, better examples of that, just because, I mean, she's the cricket team captain and she has a lot of interviews out there, but they're very different from our podcast. She's been on a lot of interviews and on a few podcasts. I don't know how many, but definitely a few because, well, I listened to all of them before getting on it. And our podcast was significantly different. It wasn't even close. And so that's always a good sign. We're not recycling content, we're not doing the same thing everyone else is doing. Which is actually a good segue to the next question, like what are we doing and what do we want to do? So yeah, let's start with that.
I'm gonna shoot that back at you and let you lead it.
I hate you. I was really hoping you'd take this. So here's the thing, right? Like, I think, like personally, it's interesting because we also haven't spoken about this. So, uh, like we spoke about this for the first time before starting the pod, and we've never really had an updated conversation. So yeah, let's see how this goes. But I, we've had we've done what 6 episodes and one with us, so seven, and this is the seventh or eighth, however you want to count it. But this is the seventh. And so over the course of these podcasts, it's felt less like work and more like fun. And so I had somewhat of a mindset switch, I would say, like 5 podcasts in, where I was like, oh, okay, we need to do this to get the views. But now I care less about that, and I'm more about, okay, we need to do these things just to get better guests to have better conversations because it's fun. And so that mindset switch has been, I think the outcome of that will be similar in the sense that conversation quality will go up, production quality will go up, the conversations we have guests, the quality of that will go up. But I think the change will only be an internal change where I will just be happier doing it. And so I'm happy about that. From a perspective of like what we're doing and where we want to take this, it's again very interesting. Because I'm just having fun with it. I haven't thought about that too much. But I do think we bring an interesting perspective um, and depth out of people that you don't generally see in podcasts. I have seen a lot of Western podcasts, I guess, which is also what have influenced me and you as well into doing this. Chris Williamson, Lex Friedman, like Jordan Peterson, they have a lot of depth and a lot of substance in their podcasts. I have seen that less in India. I won't say it's non-existent, but it's significantly less. And I think that's a gap we fill. I also think that there is no one doing this type of content in our age. And that's a very unique perspective to have because people having substance and depth at the age of 35, 40, 45, 50, and so on, is very different and relatable, yes, but in a sense, less so compared to someone who's going through it right now. And when you're listening to advice on a podcast from someone who's 45, 50, they've been through it, all of that, like they'll give you everything based on their experience, whereas we're going through it right now, we don't know what to do. And it's fresh in our mind. We're navigating all of those things, all of the questions and the confusion and everything that you have in your 20s right now without knowing how it'll end up.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. And
The
that's, I think, what we bring to the pod. Is that enough? I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we get better. Maybe we have more things to um, offer in the future. But I don't know. I'm having fun with it, and I think it's going in a good direction.
yeah, I mean, dude, two things. First, the fun that I think both of us are starting to have with it is only growing, right? Every time we're doing a pod, we're feeling happier. We feel like we're asking better questions. We feel we're coming out of it happier than we went into it. And I
Yeah.
think if we can keep doing that, wow, that's gonna make a reel. As long as we can keep doing that, I see a lot of scope for this podcast. But you said something interesting. You mentioned what we bring to the podcast, and last month I was trying to close a guest for us to come on. You know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
And she looked at me and she said, well, we'll talk about me coming on in a second, but what do you and Ribhav bring to the podcast? And nobody asked me that question until this lady at like 11 p.m. at a beautiful restaurant looks me dead in the eyes and says this. And I swear to fucking God, that entire night I was just thinking about what you and me bring to the podcast. Here's what I came up with. Hear me out. Hear me out. Here's what I came up with. I didn't tell you this. We bring perspective, we bring honesty, and we bring right now about 70 to 80% of our own side of vulnerability. I do think that over the course of the next few podcasts and next few episodes, we need to focus on getting more vulnerable as well, right? It's when we open up just that little bit more, I seriously feel we can unlock one more layer in our guest stories. But
That's
those are the
true.
three things that we bring.
I think we've done decently with the vulnerability, to be fair. Like when we had the Nath podcast, um, when we talking about sport and heartbreak with sport and all of that stuff. Um, I don't think there were any filters there. Sure, we can do better. I also think these type of podcasts, we have to find a better framework for it, more types of questions, maybe talk about some things that are happening in the world, in our lives, whatever. We'll figure that out as we go along. This is just the first one, or the second one after the intro, whatever. But I think this is also a good idea every five, six, seven podcasts, something like that. Just because, and Omar actually was the one who brought this up, is that he listens to our podcast and he's our best friend, so he knows. But as an outsider, he doesn't know who we are. And so bridging that disconnect, I think, is important just for people to be interested in listening to our stuff. Like, why would they listen to our stuff? Who are we? And I feel like getting that across is helpful. I see a smirk. What are you laughing about?
I, it's it's really weird every time you say who are we because I know you too well.
I know.
And like I'm used to the shit you say, and then we get in front of a camera and I'm like, why are we doing this thing together? and we'll finish a podcast, and I'm like, thank God we decided to do this thing together. But you bring up a good question. Like, people need to get to know us better, and that begs the question: what, in your eyes, is a 3-year goal for this podcast for you, and how does it relate to the kind of human being that you are?
That's a really good question.
Thank you. I'm a
I like the
podcaster.
little added of how it relates to who I am. Um, as a generally in life, I value well quite a few things, but two things that I value a lot: honesty and depth in relationship. And I think this podcast is aligned with that almost perfectly. Um, yeah, almost perfectly. That's a good way to put it. Um, I don't like we spoke to Raghu uncle on our first podcast about this, and he was talking about how with his wife he's his true self, whereas with everyone else you have a certain mask on, right? And those are essentially just different versions of you that you have with different people. Like we have a slightly different version of ourselves on this podcast because you see the unfiltered version of me when we're off this podcast, which no one should really see.
I
But
feel like you just called me your wife really subconsciously. Are
yeah,
we
that's
dating or
not a good look,
something,
is
dude?
it? Not a good look. We
I mean,
spent,
people wouldn't be surprised, bro.
yeah, people who know us, they saw this coming for sure. They definitely saw this coming.
Are we making it official, though?
Huh?
Are we making it official?
Not really, man.
I mean, look, I know you're speaking
Not feeling
about
that with you.
honesty and depth of relationships and us. It only gets me thinking about one thing. And look, we're in our mid-20s.
Hmm.
Sure, we're doing this. We're both doing well in our lives, relative
Hmm.
to a lot of people, relative to where we thought we would be. I truly believe that. We
Yeah.
have great friends. We have been in relationships. There's been a lot that's happened in our lives. Early 20s. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, no.
In
I hate
your
you.
in the last 7 to 10 years of being in relationships,
That's a
what are
wild
things?
statement to say, by the way, isn't it? We're
Dude, you're a
25.
yeah, you're
Seven
a
to
serial
eight, 10,
monogamist.
whatever.
What have you learned from being in relationships about yourself, about maybe what you like, what you don't like, but also what uh, I guess the future holds for you, because you've been in good relationships and you've had good friendships as a byproduct of those relationships. So,
There's a lot over there. Um, so I'm gonna give you my most recent learning and then throw it back to you like you just did to me. So fuck you. But I think the most recent thing and recently the most important thing um, that I learned about relationships was people, different people need you in their life in different ways. So what I mean by that is, I mean, so you know this about me, and well, you say this a lot. I don't necessarily agree, but you say I'm too hard on myself. I think it's fair. I don't think it's too hard. I think it's just fair. Um, but and when you're in a relationship with someone, I was with someone for 4.5 years. Um, you want the best for them as well, right? And so your standard for yourself is very high. But after a 4.5 year relationship, your standard for the person you're with is also just as high. right? And so I'm hard on myself in the sense that, oh, if I don't want to do something, if I'm feeling bad about something, whatever, like it is what it is. You just go through it, right? There's no point whining and crying about it. I generally don't even talk to anyone about it because it is what it is. Like if I need help finding a solution, if I need to bounce ideas off someone, I will. But I generally don't look for that emotional support, which is also interesting because that is something that has changed recently, after breaking up. But regardless, anyway, that is different people operate in different ways. And so if someone is going through something, me just giving solutions and being like, oh, you can navigate it this way, think about this. Okay, if you don't know, if you're not entirely sure what you want to do, just pick something, go in that direction. Like, those are solutions. That's not support, right? And that's a very important distinction that I never really made, is that someone might want you to be there in a different way, and you need to be able to identify that and be there for them the way they need you to be there for them, not the way that you think you should be there for them. Um, and yeah, I think that's like it sounds obvious, but it isn't. At least it wasn't to me for the longest time. And so I would definitely say that is one of my more important learnings, um, about relationships. And not just when I say relationships, I don't just mean like a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I mean general relationships, like you and me as well. I've always been the solution guy to you, but now I try to figure out what you want in that moment, right? And yeah, that's been one of my big
It
ones.
reminds me of a reminds me of a meme I saw a while back. The girlfriend sent the boyfriend a message saying, "I'm at lunch and my shawarma just fell apart," and the boyfriend responded saying, "Are you in the feelings phase or are you looking for a solution right now?" Uh,
ये फटे हुए जोक तेरे यार.
uh,
But
but
yeah.
no, like there's so much truth in what you said, and the theme that I'm getting is you have learned to understand how other people are and how to speak their language more than
Yes.
going in with your own language.
I think that's an
I
important life
can,
skill also. I think that'll serve you well just in life.
yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
don't know why I keep smirking when you
I don't
talk.
know. You just you're not used
It,
to me being serious for this long, are you? Like I can see it on your face. You're just like, oh, he's gonna talk shit now. He's gonna talk shit.
I keep waiting for the kicker, but no, I mean I think that's a very important theme is learning
Yeah.
to speak the language of your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, your friends. The second, I think the second that you can turn a page and learn their language
Hmm.
and how to communicate with them the right way and the best way, your relationship goes to the next level. Because at that point, you inject a sense of empathy in the relationship, which is a learned skill. And so, in the act of actually developing your own relationship further, you're becoming a more empathetic person, and that is having a corresponding impact on how healthy or unhealthy your relationship is.
Yeah. I just noticed though, you got a fatty pimple on your forehead, bro. Like, I just noticed and I can't stop staring at it now.
I have a very, very pretty face to look at.
Absolutely. Oh, you have Omar, well, Amir's, not Omar's. We keeps calling it Omar's. But you have Amir's party tonight, don't you?
I have his, well, yeah, I'm leaving for his party as soon as I'm done filming this.
Is this the first wedding that you have been invited to? Like you are the guest, not your parents. Like you are the main invitee.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a weird
Yeah.
time in life now, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Mm.
Ah.
Let's not digress from relationships though. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just saw that pimple and I got sidetracked.
I
But
I wanna I
go
wanna
on.
understand a bit more how have you dealt with relationships with your best friends versus your girlfriends versus your parents? And I guess with each of those, what's been different for you?
Bro, the thing is, there's such completely different relationships, right? Like, at some level, a girlfriend and best friend is can get similar, sure, but it's still very different relationships in the sense that, like, when I'm talking to you, Omar, call, Sanchit, like, I'm not worried about hurting your feelings. I could care less, right? And I mean, we've known each other 15 years. We've been back for, wow, my life has been sad. But we've known each other for way too long. And a certain level of comfort and familiarity comes with that. In the sense that even if I do say something in the moment that you take the wrong way, which is very rare because you also understand me, but let's say it happens. Has it? I don't even think it's ever happened, but let's say it happens. It's not an issue. We just talk about it, and it's not even an emotional conversation, and it's done. Like it is what it is. So it's a very it's easy to take for granted, and it's a very easy relationship to have because it's just the default for everything. Like something just happened, I have some free time. Oh, I just call Rohan. Like, it just happens. Um, I think it's similar with a girlfriend. Gets more similar as time goes on. In the sense that the first year of a relationship is nothing like that. The second year, nothing like that. Third year starts getting similar, but still very, very different from a 10-15 year relationship, right? And so it slowly moves towards that. Um, but it's also different in the sense that a lot of the degenerate things that I say to you guys that might put me in jail if anyone else heard it. Like I wouldn't say that to my girlfriend. I would say that but slightly toned down or in a nicer manner where I'm not as vulgar. You know what I mean? Whereas with you, it works. And so those are the differences I would say in those relationships. And with parents again, that's a different generation with a very different outlook on life. Um, Similar in some ways, different in some ways. Um, Obviously, they have the advantage of experience and wisdom and age, which is so you take that advice, you learn from them, but it's not always directly applicable, and you might disagree with a lot of the things just because. I mean, look at how much the world has changed. My parents are 64 now. The world has changed a lot, right? I was talking to my mom about this, about my career and working in large companies versus startups, and she's of that mindset, and she's been out of the workforce for a while now, and she's never experienced a startup, and she's never really known anyone who's done a startup, right? Like none of her friends did startups. Like it was a very different time. Um, when she's experienced all of these things in life. And so her perspective is just, oh no, you should just go to a big company, do your thing, blah, 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 whatever. And then eventually, if you want to start something of your own, that's what you do. But I disagree with that. Um, I think the type of impact you can have, the amount of the growth curve, the exponential growth curve is only really there in smaller companies, small to medium sized companies, and not at big companies. And so, you have that disconnect in a lot of things. That's just one example. But you have that disconnect in a lot of things where their advice may be very valuable and it might help you make your decision and think about things that you hadn't thought about before, but you might disagree with what their outcome is versus what your outcome is. And in a lot of cases, of course, you don't, but in some cases you do. And then that's another thing that you have to navigate because, at least for me, right, my parents, even when they're wrong, it's a very significant, like, I put a lot of weight on what they say, even if I completely disagree with it. And I think that's just because they're my parents, right? Like a function of them being my parents is that I will put a lot of weight into what they say, even when I outwardly completely disagree with it. And so that is another thing to learn to navigate. And you have to be, and I think I put a lot of that weight on what they say emotionally, right? Because I mean, they're my parents. And I think thinking of it less emotionally, um, is something I have gotten better at, but I need to get significantly more better at. Um, but yeah,
It's always a
good questions, bro.
it's always a
Okay.
tough balance to strike, especially with your parents, because
Yeah. Yeah.
you want to hold their word as gospel,
Yes.
but you're also older, for the most part wiser. You're independently living your life, and also I think our society is transforming at, I mean, we're truly living a golden age, and things are happening so quickly in our generation that for someone, especially out of the workforce, it's not as easy for them to understand the kind of world that we live in on a day to day basis, the kind of conversations we have, the kind of people we're around. And I think that that plays a role in how you communicate with your parents and how you put your point across.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how
So,
you said we want to take our parents' word as gospel. It was easier when we did. Life was way easier when we
always,
did.
bro. Always. It really was easier. I
Yeah.
still do
And
for the most part. Like, it's funny, bro. My parents just have a way with me. They'll say the same thing twice, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. Like, I don't know. It's just, but conversations like these now, they're a lot more back and forth versus
yes,
this is how you should do it. It's more of a, well, let's talk about it. You know, I have a
it's a very
perspective as
interesting
well.
switch. It's a
Yeah,
very interesting switch.
it's
Um,
called adulting.
yeah, it's not fun. It's not
Bro,
fun at all.
the thing I hate the most about adulting is
Yeah.
laundry.
Bro, but that's because wait, you have any unit now, right, in New York?
No,
Still,
I pay too
brother,
much rent to not have in-unit laundry right now, and I still do it.
brother.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do it, man. That is
I
a
fucking hate laundry. And like I'm also the idiot that just won't pay like $40 and get someone else to like pick up the laundry, do the laundry, bring back the laundry because I'm like,
yeah. Wait,
well,
hold on. 40
I
bucks.
could,
You would do that what every week? That's 200 bucks a month.
yeah,
Yeah, almost
exactly.
200, 160, whatever. Yeah, you'd be stupid to do that. I would
Thank
I
you,
would
thank
give
you.
you shit for doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So I hate laundry. Anyways,
Yeah.
on to better things.
Yeah, no, the segue is gone now because I mean, I threw a little bit of work and career in there, and I wanted to ask you because I love this because I know exactly what you're gonna say, but I feel like, it's good to dive into it in a podcast setting for two reasons. Because, well, no one else knows what you're gonna say, and also because, again, we have these different versions of ourselves in different scenarios, right? Like I've seen you in your absolutely broken Rohan talking about this, and then happy Rohan talking about this. I've never seen podcast Rohan talking about this where you're like serious and like trying to articulate it in the best way possible. So, where do you feel like you're in your career right now? And where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what's the 3 to 5 years? And if you have somewhat of an end game in mind, then that.
I think right now in my career, I'm not so much at a crossroads, but I'm more in a position where I'm trying my best to assess where I want to be for the next 3 to 5 years. So the struggle in my career right now is figuring out where I want to direct most of my energy for the next 3 to 5 years. The good part about my career right now is I'm in a good spot and I'm surrounded by very good people. I have a very extroverted personality, which helps because I get to build a lot more relationship. As long as I can keep doing that and use what I'm doing right now as an enabler to help me figure out that next 3 to 5 year, I'm okay with where I'm at. Um, could it be different? Yes. Could I be significantly happier somewhere else? Maybe. The the footnote there is I am a very all-in guy and I don't want to go somewhere or do something for the sake of it or because it's a sexy thing to do. I don't mind taking some more time to figure out what that is for me. Maybe I don't figure it out. I'm more inclined to I'm erring on the side of I won't figure out exactly what it is, but I hope I get closer to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very gray area where on days you're like, I don't know why the fuck I'm doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
On some days you're like, well, you should be really grateful for what you are being able to do. And then on other days you're like, what's the impact I'm having on the world? What's the legacy I'm leaving if I wasn't here tomorrow? Will people remember me to be a consultant? Is that the brand that I want to hold on to? Right? So I feel like your career is just growing pains over a period of time that you learn to supplement with things that you love and help you figure out what you want to spend more of your time on. That's where I'm at in my career right now.
Hmm. That's well said. I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's good that you're taking time to figure it out. 'Cause I think it was Sam Altman's blog that I read it on. Is he says whenever he's looking for the next opportunity, it's important to think about that carefully and pick something that'll make everything you've done up until that point just look like a footnote. That should be the most significant thing you have ever done. Um, but the flip side of that is, and Jordan Peterson talks about this, is when you're not sure what to do, obviously, like think about it, evaluate your options, but you can't be like it's easy to get stuck in that rut. And if you feel like you're stuck in that rut, just pick something and just do it because clarity isn't just going to hit you. You have to find it. And if you don't know how to find it, just do anything because your worst case scenario in that case is you're gathering more information, and more information is always good to help you make up your mind and make a decision. So just move in some direction. But that's the thing, right? It's a delicate balance between the two. You can't just blindly move in a direction all your life and then, 20, 30 years later, you look back like, what am I doing? What have I done? But you also can't be thinking all the time. Like you have to also
Mm.
take action, right? Bless you.
Obviously.
Um, and so, yeah, it is interesting because mid-20s, I guess everyone has that quarter life crisis time. And so, yeah, I
I'm
guess that's part
definitely
of
there
it.
right now. But
Yeah,
that's
yours
because
has been a little longer also because of the injury and stuff. What happened there? How are you faring with that? Because that's probably the most emotionally wrecking thing you've ever been through, right? And yeah, talk to me about that a little bit. I think we touched on it a little in the first pod, but yeah, how's that going? How are you dealing with that? Because what, 3 years, something like that?
It's been 3 years, 2 months, and 26 days
Wow, that bothers
since
you. Yeah,
since I've been relatively handicapped. Um,
yeah.
man, I think so far in my life, and I don't think that for the rest of my life either,
Hmm.
anything will take up as much mental energy and emotional energy and physical energy of mine that this has. Um,
I
It's
hope not.
like it's just made me feel a lot more negative emotion, and I've never been a negative guy. Like I'm relentlessly optimistic where I can be, but this has just been the hardest thing I've dealt with in my life. Every time I feel like I'm close to recovery, it relapses. Every method I've tried has not worked. Um, and I was thinking about this earlier today. When you go meet a doctor, there's two kinds of cases. The first is them looking at you and saying, "Oh yeah, this is a common case. We get this all the time, and here's the fix for it, yada yada yada." And then there's rare cases. I'm very, very scared. I am erring on the side of being a rare case. Rare cases are only harder to heal. Rare cases are harder to fix, and rare cases means it's an experiment even for the doctor because
Mm.
they aren't used to those cases.
Yeah, you're a special boy.
Yeah,
Go on,
in
sorry,
the only way that I
sorry.
didn't want to be a special boy.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, it's been tough. It's been the hardest thing in my life, but it's uh, it's made me an emotionally stronger person because I've had to deal with this shit myself, and a lot of the times I've just held it in. People
yeah.
are like, "How are you?" And I can respond saying, "Well, fine, but physically fucking shit." Or I can just, respond saying, "I'm doing great." Like,
Yeah.
here are the 6 things in my life that are truly so good right now that as long as I can focus my energy on those, you just find a way to get through it. It's not easy at all.
No,
To
I can
anyone who's
imagine.
dealt with an injury, a bad one, kudos to you, man. Like, I don't think until you have it, you realize that you could have 99 problems, and when health is one of them, it's the only problem.
That's when you have one problem.
And I'm in that boat right
Yeah.
now. So it's just like helps you focus your energy on other things in life, which is also a good thing, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm
teaches
trying
you
to
use resilience also,
a lot of
which has
resilience.
been a theme for a lot of our podcasts. But yeah,
The thing that this injury did for me, if anything, is part of my personal brand was always I identified as the fit guy, as the sportsman, as the guy who plays football, tennis. Oh, he's so disciplined. He gyms. That was my brand, and that's very similar to your brand as well, right? Because you've created it for yourself. I never did it for the external validation of that being my brand. I did it because everything I did, I just loved doing so much. So I never approached it that way. And now, if anything, the injury is just making me reconsider what else I should be identifying as.
interesting, interesting. I want to get to that, but real quick, I feel like you lied there, bro. You external validation के लिए नहीं किया, bro. Not at all. Not even a
Whoa, what
little,
are you
bro.
talking about, bro? Like, don't get me wrong, the aesthetics you always gotta do for the peoples and the
There's a
gram.
lot of external validation in it for me, bro.
Absolutely.
It was a
Absolutely.
driving force for a lot of the times.
Bro, actually, you misconstrued what I meant by external validation. Fuck yeah, it matters. It matters a
Yeah.
lot. But there's two ways to approach external validation, especially in our society. The first
Okay.
is you do it for the external validation. You
Yes.
care about only that reinforcement
Yes.
to make you feel like you're doing the thing that you should be doing. The
Yes.
second form of external validation is where we fall into. You do the thing because you love the thing, and
Mm-hmm.
external validation is a byproduct of you just doing the thing you love so much.
Ah, like that. Yes.
And it continue the external validation in our case just pushes us harder. It's like an additional positive reinforcer that
Mm-hmm.
makes us want to keep doing the thing.
Yes. Relatively recently, like I'd say in the past 5, 6 years, like I've been working out, like lifting weights for about almost 10 years now, 9, 10 years. I'd say the recent like six has been that second type. But bro, in school, if you think my primary and sole motivation was not just external validation, you're absolutely wrong. That is the only reason I started. It was nothing for myself. It was all just surface level external validation and nothing more. That has definitely changed over the years, and I'm really happy that, I mean, regardless of how it started, I'm really happy it started. Um, for whatever reason, it was just because it served me well now. Um, but at the start, it was for the wrong reasons for sure.
It's not a wrong reason, man. Whenever people ask me how I'm so disciplined, and I don't know if you feel the same way, I'm like, it's a very intentional question they ask. They're like, I struggle to get into the gym. I struggle to eat healthier. I struggle to not check my phone before I sleep. All that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, find any reason that pushes you to do it. That reason could be wanting to wear a smaller size in clothing. It could be to clean your skin. It could be because you want your crush to look at you a little bit more. Like, find your reason and just commit to that reason. It doesn't matter what makes you do it. As long as you show up for some reason, it's better than not showing up at all.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. That's, I think, one thing. I think we've done an okay job with our guests up until now, but I think that is one thing that we should focus on a little more, is motivations. Why? Why are they doing it? Like, they are disciplined, they are resilient. What makes them resilient, all of those things, the mindset, I think we've delved a lot into. But I think we should focus a little more on why they're doing it. Like, why are you sacrificing so much of your life? Like when we were talking to Nag, right? Um, I mean, he's not playing in the Indian leagues. There's a lot of things that he could be doing which would objectively, outside of passion and everything, like put that aside, they would objectively improve his quality of life, like the things he would be able to do, um, or want to do, or just general quality of life would improve. But he sticks with his passion, he's disciplined with his workouts, he does everything he needs to do and he should do day in and day out, year after year. Why? Right? And I think I think that's very interesting because that's never the like mindset like the outcome of that motivation generally is very similar in the sense that you're very disciplined. Oh, I just have to do what I do. Oh, it's a bad day. Well, fuck me, it's a bad day. I still have to do what need to do, right? But the motivation of why, like, did it come from an insecurity that you have to prove yourself, or are you doing this because um, you need to, like, there's some bug in you that's like, oh, you're not going to be good enough until you've achieved this, or like, what is that motivation behind it? Because for some people it'll be positive, for a lot of people it'll be negative, and I think those will be some interesting conversations to have. So I think, yeah, you typed something, so I'm guessing it's something related to this. But yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to dive into, especially with the round of guests that we have coming on now. I think that's some very interesting conversations to have. I don't know if you want to spoil that, give a few names out, but I think I think one thing to expect from us in the upcoming, and we're gonna record it all in like a week, 10 days, but in the upcoming 6, 7 weeks, is significantly higher production quality. I think that'll be the biggest jump. Conversations will definitely keep on getting better. I think that'll be a linear increase throughout. I think it has been getting better, and I think it will continuously getting better. Continuously keep getting better. But I think production quality is going to go up significantly. I think we have some good plans for that, and hopefully that pans out exactly how we're envisioning
Yeah,
it to pan out.
I mean, I don't think we need to give them any spoilers, but here's what I will say. We, over the next, I'm so excited. We have entrepreneurs, we have VC fund people, we have influencers, we have actors, we have
Yeah,
professional athletes.
athletes. Yes.
The next few podcasts that we do will be truly representative of our mission, and I think that
Yes.
the the first few have done that to a certain extent, but now it's about progressing in a way that you guys love, right? At the end of the day, we love these conversations, but we want you to keep loving these conversations. So you will get a lot of diversity in thought, you will get diversity in perspective, and hopefully you can find that one person whose voice you listen to and trust in approaching as a mentor or just as someone you go to as an influence. And that's what we want to come out of the next few episodes. Um, I feel like this is the perfect way to like close it, where I'm gonna ask you for the next over the next 10 to 15 episodes that we do, what is your single biggest goal for us?
Single biggest goal for the next 10 to 15 episodes. See, I think I will answer your question, but I think sometimes the foundation and the most basic things are ignored. Like I know, like you're asking me, what is the main goal? And I know what you mean by that. This is not the answer you're expecting, but just the fact, like the basic thing, we have to hit it once every week. Like this week, we were very close, right? We don't have a guest this week, but the fact that we've committed to once a week, that will always be the biggest goal. Like we cannot miss, right? That's something we've committed to, and we've had that conversation before. Once you've committed to something, you have to do it. If you don't, like that spirals into a lot of problems, and you just don't want to start with that, right? And so that will always be there. But to give you a better answer, Um, I think the production quality continuously needs to keep going up. When we do the in-person ones, I think it's relatively good. I think it still needs to go higher. That is something we'll focus on for the next, 6, 7 weeks. Um, I think we also need to talk about the branding of our podcast. Um, Figure out, like, when you bought your coffee with Karan, I don't know if he still does that, but back in the day he used to have this rapid fire round, right? And you would be like, okay, if it's coffee with Karan, whatever they talk about, there will be a rapid fire round. Now, I'm not saying we do a rapid fire, but maybe something unique to us, our brand, what's true to us. We figure that out. And I mean, if anyone listening to this has suggestions, please suggest. We'd love to hear it. But things like that, things unique to us. Because again, like I do believe that we bring a lot of unique things to the podcast, just because of who we are as people and what we value and what perspectives we have, and the type of guests that we have on. But just because I believe, and I think you believe too, that that is going well, doesn't mean we don't try to continuously push the envelope, right? And it's good that we're having fun with it, because it's hard to push the envelope on something when you have a full-time job. You're trying to do like a bunch of these things that you're doing in life, right? And then you put a podcast on top of that, and you're like, oh, let's also push the envelope on this. And if it wasn't fun, you'd be like, yeah, no. But that's what makes me the most excited for it. Is I'm also learning a lot about navigating conversations while doing this podcast. So personally, just from a personal growth perspective, I'm very excited about that, because I have now found it easier. Like I meet someone for the first time. Um, Before, it sometimes it can get awkward. Like, oh, I don't know what to talk about. Oh, I don't even really want to have a conversation right now. But now, if I feel like that's about to happen, like you just go into podcast mode, you just start talking and you just start asking questions, you start getting to know the person better. And it just makes every situation a lot easier. And a lot less daunting as well, because the more you've done that, the less daunting it is. And I think that's true for everything in life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually don't know if I answered your question directly, but those
You
are
did.
generally
You
the things
did.
that I'm excited about.
I feel like those are some of the most important things, and I agree with all of them. But I mostly agree with the fact that the more I do this podcast, the more comfortable I get talking to absolutely anybody. That was something that I didn't particularly struggle with even before,
Hmm.
but now the dialogue has just become so much smoother. There's a better
Yes.
flow. I know how to navigate the conversations better. And if anything, I'm understanding human behavior a lot better, where you know the direction the conversation's going in faster. You know people's motives behind the things that they say to you better. And I think that, coupled with everything else we're learning on the pod, well, I don't know about the next 10 to 15 podcasts, but here's what I'm going to say. In the next 3 to 5 years, Panoramic Perspectives will be the best podcast that India has ever seen, and we will be competing with the Western world. You heard it
I
here
believe it.
first. You will keep hearing it here. And man, we're so fucking excited for growing this podcast to what it's going to be, because we're having so much fun doing it. So stick around, guys. It's not a super long time. Like we're 25. By the time most of you are 28 to 30, we we'll be up there. We'll be up there. Hopefully sooner. Get us
I
there
definitely
sooner.
believe that. I definitely believe that. And
But
it also makes it fun doing it with a friend, right? Like I don't think I would be that excited doing it alone. That's why hats off to
yeah,
Call, man. He's got this vision and he's going at it. Good for him. Because he's doing it
yeah.
alone. He's
Well,
doing everything alone.
but I mean, like, kudos to him. But also, we had this conversation, right? I
Yeah.
think this is one of those tough conversations you have to have before you get into it, where you need to navigate each other's personalities. And Nirbhay said this perfectly. He said, get into business with a friend who you're used to having conflict with.
Yes.
And it sits with me every time I sit with you on a podcast. And I'm like, the worst of the worst problems will be navigated, because
Yeah.
we can just communicate it to each other. And if we don't communicate it, we know each other's body language so well
Mm.
that there won't ever be a problem.
Yeah.
And if there is, there's the communication that we can use to fix that problem. So I'm hyped that I'm doing it with you. I just hate that I have to see your face more now. Uh, it's tough. Like, Because usually it's not at a stretch, you know? It's like we'll be out together and
Not at a stretch. You lived in this apartment for a month. Before that,
yeah,
we were in India for a good month. Before that, we were in Japan for 2 weeks. Before that, we
man.
were in India for a good month.
Oh my God.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, we should do a round two of this where we just reflect on the year that we've had closer to the
No,
end of this year.
there's a lot that's gone on. That's actually one thing that I have tried to do, but I don't think I do good and I don't do well enough, is just reflect on the changes that have happened within me over time. Because man, in school though, fuck, I was a completely different person. But in university, first year I was completely different. Second year, way different than that. Every year I changed so much. And then for a lot of people, that change kind of stagnates. I could be wrong. I just have this view that for a lot of people, the change kind of stagnates after university. Like that's your, most exponential change time. But even the 3 years after university, man, phew, it's wild. It's hard to even wrap your head around how much has changed, especially just in the last 10 months. Like since the breakup and the quarter life crisis really hit, you know, a a lot just in me has changed, and I mean, I would argue for the better, and I hope that's true. But yeah, it's when you're just, thrown into that confusion, thrown into like, right in the middle of everything. I think it gets kind of hard to just take a step back and be like, whoa, a lot has happened. I should just digest this. And yeah, that's definitely something to work on. And that's what excites me a lot about this podcast is like 10 to 15 years you are. So, fuck, man, dude, 10 to 15 years. I don't know. Like, it's just exciting to think about how much we'll learn and how much we'll change over that time. Like, that's wow. It's just so exciting, right? So,
I
yeah,
think there's
I
a lot
think I
to
think this will
reflect
go on.
on when it
Yeah.
comes to change and what we've been through. And I truly believe that an episode two of just this is needed,
Yeah.
where we just sit and reflect. And I think we should do that when we're together, because
Yeah, I
just
think that's a good idea.
get a nice cup of coffee, sit together, and just shoot the shit. Um, and I'm sure we'll do
We should
that
get
really
Omar in
soon.
for that one, man. I think you, me, Omar shooting the shit would be a nice,
Yeah.
fun time.
I think we make that happen very soon. But
Mm-hmm.
but no, I mean I feel like this has been great, man. Like this is important for us to do and to continue to reflect mid
Mm-hmm.
series of episodes just to see where we're at and what our goals are. And hopefully we can continue to align. To everyone out there, we love you guys and we will continue to do our best as long as why don't you do the exit, huh? We will continue to do our best. Keep showing us the love, keep spreading the love. And if you ever have an opportunity to put panoramic perspective stickers on people's cars, please do it. Uh, I think that's all from me. Do you have anything to add, Ribhav?
Nah, man, I just can't be casual. We love you guys.
No, we really do.
Man,
I love you guys. Okay, I love you guys. He's asexual and he's got things that he has to deal with, and that's okay.
I I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I,
We're,
oh, man.
we're leaving. Have a lovely weekend,
Ribhav was
guys.
right about that
Party
for
hard.
sure. It's hard to be serious with your friends, bro. Like, it's very hard when you're just serious with your friends.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
yeah, did we say
Anyways,
party hard? Don't party responsibly. Guys, we're getting old in age now. I think it's time we party responsibly.
guys,
You know?
comment below who your favorite host is, please.
It's fine.
Uh,
I've turned a chapter in my life now. The degeneracy is now gone. Now I'm gonna go down the monk road. I'm gonna shave my head. I'm gonna live in the
I
mountains for
can't.
a bit. I'm gonna
I can't do
meditate and
this.
I'm gonna be a better person.
I believe in you. I'll do it with you.
Okay, so
But yeah,
we cut now. Good.
end it, bro. I've
End
said
it,
the
end it, end
goodbyes a long
it.
time
Goodbye.
back. Goodbye,
Done,
bro. We
done.
love you
We'll end it
guys.
here. Yeah,